All right, let's just jump right into this explainer. We're going to cut through all the intense hype today and look at the actual on-the-ground engineering reality of Claude 5 Fable. We hear so much noise about these frontier AI models, right? But today, we're sticking strictly to the hard data. We're talking real-world deployment challenges and what literally happens when a company decides to trust its entire code base to a single AI model. To kick things off, let's look at this visceral hook from a Reddit post that went absolutely viral recently. It details a massive layoff at a mid-sized tech services company. An anonymous developer there painted this incredibly grim picture of what actually goes down when executive leadership decides, hey, an AI model is ready to take over the heavy lifting of software engineering. They mentioned that hiring had been frozen since 2025 and projects were kind of slowing down, but man, nobody expected an overnight restructuring on this scale. 62. That is the staggering number of developers who were let go in one single stroke. That left just 8 top performers behind, and according to the post, the C-suite essentially told this tiny skeleton crew that Claude Fable 5 is totally enough to handle all of the remaining projects the company has left. I mean, think about that. This represents a massive, massive shift from literally just a year ago, when most developers looked at AI as, to use this developer's exact words, just fancy autocomplete. So as you can probably guess, the community split right down the middle when this news dropped. On one hand, you've got genuine developer panic, this sudden realization that, wow, the pace of AI improvement is structurally altering our whole industry. But on the other hand, there's some really intense skepticism. A lot of industry veterans are arguing that blaming AI is, well, just convenient PR speak for a shrinking client base and weaker revenue. But the reality sitting right in the middle, deploying AI at scale is definitely not free, and you still fundamentally need human beings who actually understand the software, who can review the output, and who make sure the code doesn't turn into a complete, chaotic mess 6 months down the line. This whole shocking real-world disruption really begs the big question, doesn't it? Is Claude Fable 5 actually that much better than its frontier rival, GPT-5.5? To understand why executives are making these kind of drastic bets, we've got to look under the hood. We need to see what these models can actually do, how they behave, and where they fundamentally differ from each other. According to a deep dive by Mind Studio, it turns out they excel in completely different domains. They are both incredibly strong, but, strong in very different ways. Fable 5 absolutely dominates when it comes to deep reasoning, dealing with ambiguous requirements, and juggling multi-file tasks. It is hands down Anthropic's most capable, widely released model. GPT 5.5, on the flip side, wins on raw speed. That makes it super efficient for fast, function-level code synthesis, cranking out boilerplate, and doing real-time interactive pair programming. Now check this out. The crucial point here is that Fable 5's 72% SWE-bench score isn't just some random vanity metric. SWE-bench verified is pretty much the gold standard for testing whether an AI can actually resolve real open-source GitHub issues. So that 72% translates directly to a model successfully refactoring multi-file code bases all on its own. But notice something really interesting here. Claude Fable 5 standard actually scores a little bit lower than GPT 5.5. The real magic only happens when Fable 5 kicks into its extended thinking mode. So what exactly is extended thinking? Basically, it's a feature that allows the model to carefully plan out its agentic path before it even takes an action. Instead of just immediately firing off a tool call and kind of thrashing around when things go wrong, Fable 5 essentially writes out a hidden internal scratchpad. It's like it's talking to itself. And it's important to note, you don't actually see this raw chain of thought in the API output. It's kept hidden or summarized, but it drastically, and I mean drastically, improves the model's accuracy on really hard problems. When you break down this multi-step reasoning advantage, you get to see Fable 5 systematically diagnosing a failing test suite instead of just blindly reacting to it. It actually breaks the main goal down into subtasks, it executes them, it validates the results, and crucially, this is the big one, when a tool returns an unexpected result, it stops, diagnoses the issue, and adapts. GPT 5.5, while way faster, tends to be a lot more reactive and, frankly, less proactive. Sometimes it just needs a human to step in and course correct when it wanders off track during a long task. But as we all know, all that deep reasoning definitely comes at a price. When you look at the cost at scale, GPT 5.5 holds a very clear edge. Think about it. Agentic coding generates a massive amount of output tokens because, well, code is just verbose. At roughly $10 per million output tokens, GPT 5.5 is significantly cheaper than Fable 5 standard, which sits at around $15. And remember, if you flip on that extended thinking mode for Fable 5 we just talked about, All those internal thinking tokens, yeah, those count toward your final bill, pushing the cost up even higher. Interestingly enough, the official Anthropic documentation actually lists a much higher base rate for the raw API. We're talking $10 for input and $50 for output per million tokens. For builders out there, this is a serious wake-up call. Running thousands of autonomous agents is absolutely not free. You really have to balance the incredible high accuracy of Fable 5 against the sheer economic efficiency of GPT-5.5. Now, another major technical reality separating these two models is Fable 5's massive context window. Sitting at up to 500,000 tokens compared to GPT 5.5's 256,000, Fable 5 lets engineers load entire repositories into the model's memory all at once. I mean, that completely changes the game. Instead of relying on super complex chunking or retrieval augmented generation pipelines, your agent can just look at the whole code base. That dramatically reduces the chance of it missing some crucial piece of code during a massive multi-file refactor. But hey, deploying this stuff at the enterprise level isn't exactly smooth sailing. The Anthropic API recently introduced safety classifiers into Fable 5 that can actually refuse certain requests. It's kind of like dealing with a stubbornly polite bouncer at a club. If the model triggers a refusal, it doesn't just crash and throw a standard error. Instead, the API returns a totally successful HTTP 200 response, but with a stop reason explicitly labeled as refusal. This is a brand new quirk, and it's a behavior developers now have to actively architect their systems around. So, when one of those refusals inevitably happens, developers have to rely on 3 specific fallback strategies to seamlessly retry the prompts on another model. You can either let the server handle it using a fallbacks parameter, you can use SDK middleware on the client side, or you can just manually build out your own custom retry logic. The really good news here, though, Anthropic actually offers a fallback credit. They refunds the prompt cache cost of switching models. So you don't end up paying for that massive input context twice just because you tripped a safety flag. Now, what if you're an approved enterprise and you need to bypass those safety roadblocks entirely? Say you're working in a highly specialized or super sensitive environment. Well, Anthropic actually offers Claude Mythos 5. It shares the exact same capabilities, the same specs, and the same pricing as Fable 5, but they completely remove the safety classifiers. The catch? It's only available in limited release through something called Project Glasswing, which basically means you have to work directly with an Anthropic, AWS, or Google Cloud account team to even get access to it. So, because of all these real-world limits we've talked about, the safety classifiers, the vastly different cost structures, committing your whole operation to just a single model is actually pretty inefficient. That's why MindStudio recommends a multi-model architecture. Picture this. You have a workflow that pulls a GitHub issue. It hands the really complex reasoning and heavy file loading over to Claude 5.5, easing that extended thinking mode. But then it seamlessly routes the fast, routine boilerplate tasks right back to GPT 5.5 to save both time and money. It's all about using the right tool for the right step. Which brings us all the way back to those laid-off developers we talked about at the very beginning of this explainer. The landscape of our work is undeniably shifting beneath our feet. AI models are out there right now refactoring multi-file code bases and reasoning their way through insanely complex bugs. So we're going to wrap up this explainer with a profound question for all of us working in this industry, one that was actually inspired by a commenter on that viral Reddit post. Are you competing with AI, or are you adapting and learning to work alongside it? Because let's face it, the need to solve hard problems doesn't just disappear when a new tool arrives. It just requires a brand new kind of builder. Think about it.